Mool, Sotan Ukdelen, Torn from the Roots, a partition memoir. Kamala Patel's memoir, Torn from Roots, provides a poignant account of her experiences during the tumultuous period surrounding the partition of India in 1947. The memoir is a first-hand narrative of Operation Recovery, an initiative aimed at rescuing women and children abducted amidst the chaos of communal violence. The memoir is set against the backdrop of the partition, which led to widespread violence and the abduction of approximately 25,000 women and children. Patel's work involved recovering about 20,728 individuals during this operation, highlighting the brutal realities faced by those displaced during this time. Kamala Patel, born in 1912, was deeply influenced by her early years at Mahatma Gandhi's Sabarmati Ashram. Her involvement in the civil disobedience movement, and later in recovery operations, reflects her commitment to social justice. Initially unaware of the horrors she would encounter, Patel's experiences in refugee camps profoundly impacted her perspective on women's agency and suffering. The memoir is characterized by its candid and unflinching portrayal of human suffering. Patel recounts her daily life spent in refugee camps across Lahore, Amritsar, and Jalandhar, where she witnessed the heartbreaking stories of women who had endured unimaginable trauma. A significant theme in Torn from Roots is the lack of agency afforded to women during the recovery process. Patel reflects on how women were often treated as objects rather than individuals with their own desires and rights. This raises critical questions about consent and the moral implications of recovery operations. The memoir includes numerous personal accounts that illustrate the emotional toll of partition. For instance, stories like that of Sudarshan, a Hindu girl who refused to return to India, highlight the complex emotions tied to identity and belonging. Other narratives reveal the struggles of women who were forced to navigate their new realities amidst societal upheaval. Patel grapples with ethical dilemmas throughout her narrative. She often questions whether her efforts truly benefited the women involved, or if they merely perpetuated their suffering by forcing them into reunifications without understanding their wishes. Torn from Roots serves as a crucial historical document that sheds light on women's experiences during partition. It expands the historical narrative beyond political events to include personal stories that reflect broader societal issues. The memoir contributes to feminist historiography by emphasizing women's voices in historical discourse. It aligns with other significant works that aim to document women's experiences during this violent period, thus enriching our understanding of history from a gendered perspective. Kamala Patel's Torn from Roots is not just a memoir, it is a powerful testament to resilience amidst chaos. Through her detailed accounts, Patel not only preserves individual stories, but also challenges readers to confront uncomfortable truths about gender, agency, and the human cost of conflict. Her work remains relevant today as it resonates with ongoing issues surrounding migration and women's rights in contemporary society. Kamala Patel faced numerous challenges during the recovery operation aimed at rescuing abducted women and children following the partition of India. These challenges were multifaceted, encompassing social, political, and emotional dimensions. Many women had endured severe trauma due to abduction and violence. Patel encountered women who were deeply affected psychologically, making it difficult for them to reintegrate into society or even to express their desires about returning home or staying with their abductors. The recovery operation raised significant ethical questions regarding the autonomy of the women involved. While some believed it was essential to rescue as many women as possible, others argued that this approach often ignored the women's voices and choices, leading to a sense of further victimization. The refugee camps where the recovered women were housed were often described as worse than cattle sheds, lacking basic necessities and proper care. This environment added to the suffering of the women and complicated the recovery process. Women who returned after being abducted faced societal stigma and rejection. Many were viewed as dishonored or tainted, which led to isolation and further emotional distress. This societal pressure made it challenging for them to reintegrate into their communities. The recovery operation was fraught with political complexities, including differing opinions among officials about how best to conduct rescues and repatriations. This bureaucratic entanglement often slowed down efforts and created confusion regarding policies and procedures. Some women resisted attempts at recovery, having formed new lives with their abductors. Their reluctance to return highlighted the complexities of identity and belonging, in a post-partition context where many had to choose between two conflicting identities. The operation suffered from a lack of adequate resources, both in terms of manpower and funding, which hampered efforts to provide proper care for the recovered women. This limitation further complicated the logistics of the recovery process. Kamala Patel's experiences during the recovery operation illustrate the profound challenges faced in addressing the aftermath of communal violence during the partition. Her memoir sheds light on these issues, emphasizing the need for sensitivity towards women's experiences and choices in recovery efforts. Sarabhai was a strong advocate for the rights of women, emphasizing the necessity of rescuing abducted women and restoring their dignity. She believed that the government had a moral obligation to assist these women, aligning with Patel's views on the importance of recovery efforts. Alongside Kamala Patel, Sarabhai was instrumental in organizing recovery operations. Her leadership helped mobilize resources and support for the initiative, which aimed to reunite families and rehabilitate women who had been displaced during the riots. Sarabhai, along with Patel and Pushpaben Mehta, worked to convince Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru to establish the Central Social Welfare Board. This board was crucial for providing long-term rehabilitation and support for refugees, particularly women who had been abandoned or separated from their families. Understanding the trauma faced by many women, Sarabhai emphasized the need for compassionate care and psychological support during the recovery process. This holistic approach was vital in addressing not just physical safety, but also emotional healing. Sarabhai's ability to collaborate with other activists, including Kamala Patel, created a united front in advocating for women's rights during a time of crisis. Their collective efforts were essential in raising awareness about the plight of abducted women and pushing for systemic changes. In summary, Mridula Sarabhai's contributions to Kamala Patel's work during the recovery operation were pivotal in shaping a compassionate response to the challenges faced by women during the partition, emphasizing advocacy, leadership, and systemic support for rehabilitation efforts. Kamala Patel's experiences during the recovery operation significantly influenced her views on women's agency, particularly in the context of the trauma and challenges faced by women during the partition of India. Her first-hand encounters with the realities of violence against women shaped her understanding of their rights and autonomy. Patel observed the profound emotional and psychological trauma that women endured as a result of abduction and violence. This exposure led her to recognize that women's experiences were often marginalized, and their voices silenced in discussions about recovery and rehabilitation. She argued that men frequently viewed women as objects rather than individuals with their own rights and desires, highlighting a critical lack of agency in their lives. The recovery operation presented complex ethical dilemmas regarding women's autonomy.